Let me ask you something. Are you tired of paying a fortune for an SUV just because it has a fancy badge on it? Yeah, me too. But here's what the dealerships don't want you to know. Some of the best SUVs ever built are sitting right now on used car lots, completely ignored, practically begging to go home with you for the price of a used smartphone. Today, we're exposing 5 cheap SUVs that everybody sleeps on. But the smart buyers, oh, they've been quietly scooping these up for years. Stick around, because number 1 on this list might just make you cancel your weekend plans and head straight to Car Gurus. Let's go. Now, 1. The Honda Pilot. That's the minivan for people who don't want to admit they want a minivan. And honestly, fair. But hear me out, because underneath that suburban soccer mom exterior is one of the most bulletproof, underrated, ridiculously capable family SUVs ever built. And right now, you can grab one for a price that'll make your wallet do a happy dance. Here's the thing about the Honda Pilot that people constantly miss. This thing was built to last. We're talking about a vehicle engineered with Honda's legendary reliability DNA baked right into every bolt, every seal, every component. The 3.5 LV6 engine that powers most Pilot generations, that engine has been so thoroughly refined over the years that mechanics genuinely get bored working on them because there's almost nothing to fix. That is not a joke. That is a love language. The second and third generation Pilots, we're talking roughly 2009 all the way through to the early 2020s, consistently rank among the highest in long-term reliability studies. Owners regularly report hitting 200,000 miles and beyond with nothing more than basic maintenance, oil changes, tires, brakes. That's it. While other SUVs are on their third transmission and crying about it, the Pilot is out there just quietly doing its job. Like that one coworker who never complains and somehow always gets everything done. And the space? Oh my goodness. The space. 3 rows of seating, up to 8 passengers, and a cargo area that could comfortably store a small country. Whether you're doing a road trip with the entire family, hauling furniture you definitely didn't need from IKEA, or just living your best life with a dog that takes up more room than a grown adult, the Pilot handles it all without breaking a sweat. The AWD system on the equipped trims is genuinely capable for light off-road use, too, not just a marketing sticker slapped on the brochure. Now, and this is the part you actually need to pay attention to, because no car is perfect, and the Pilot does have a few things you absolutely must check before you hand over your hard-earned money. First, if you're looking at a 2009 to 2015 model, check the transmission. Some of those earlier 5-speed automatics had shuttering issues, particularly around the 100,000 miles mark. It's not a death sentence, but get it properly inspected and ask for service records. A transmission fluid flush history tells you a lot about how the previous owner treated the car. Second, the VCM, variable cylinder management system on the V6, can cause oil consumption issues on certain model years if it wasn't properly maintained. Listen for any sticking from the engine and watch the oil level on a test drive. Third, check all 3 rows of seats for wear and any signs that this vehicle was used as a mobile daycare, which statistically it probably was. Worn seat bolts, sticky cup holders, mysterious stains. You know the vibe. But here's the bottom line. For what these things are selling for on the used market right now, the Honda Pilot represents an almost unfair amount of value. You're getting a spacious 3-row, incredibly reliable SUV with a strong safety record, low running costs, and a parts availability that is basically everywhere for a fraction of what a brand new crossover with half the space would cost you. The smart money has always known about the Pilot. Now you do. And trust me, the next SUV on this list, you're going to want to stick around because it might just be even more overlooked than this one, which is honestly criminal. 2. The Mitsubishi ASX. Now, I can already hear some of you going, the what? And that right there is exactly the problem. Because the Mitsubishi ASX has been quietly cruising through the used car market for years, completely invisible, completely ignored, and completely underpriced, while people walk right past it to spend twice the money on something with a flashier badge. And today, we're putting some respect on this little SUV's name. Finally, the ASX, known in some markets as the Outlander Sport, launched back in 2010, and Mitsubishi built this thing with a philosophy that was almost radical for the time. Keep it simple, keep it tough, and keep it affordable to run. No overcomplicated technology trying to be clever. No unnecessarily fancy systems that cost a fortune to fix 3 years down the line. Just a solid, honest, compact SUV that does exactly what it promises and asks for very little in return. Honestly, the ASX is basically that reliable friend who never flakes on you. You know the one. The engines on offer, particularly the 2.0L naturally aspirated petrol unit, are genuinely one of the highlights of this car. Naturally aspirated means no turbo, and no turbo means fewer things that can go wrong, fewer expensive components to replace, and an engine that responds beautifully to basic maintenance. Keep the oil fresh, treat it with a little respect, and this engine will reward you with longevity that defies its price tag on the used market. Mitsubishi engines from this era have a well-documented reputation for durability, and the ASX sits right in that sweet spot of being mechanically straightforward enough that even independent mechanics, not just dealerships, can work on it without charging you a small fortune just for the diagnostic. The AWD system available on certain trims is another quiet gem. Mitsubishi has been building four-wheel drive systems for decades. This is the same brand behind some of the most celebrated rally cars in motorsport history. Let's not forget that. So, when they put an AWD system in the ASX, they actually knew what they were doing. It's not a fake AWD that only kicks in when the marketing team tells it to. It genuinely helps in slippery conditions on dirt roads, on wet surfaces, the kind of real-world situations that most people actually face, not just the dramatic mountain climbs in the commercials. Inside, it's not going to blow you away with luxury. Let's be honest about that. The interior is functional, straightforward, and built to last rather than built to impress at a car show. But the driving position is comfortable. Visibility is excellent, and the overall package feels far more solid than the price you'll pay for it on the used market suggests. Running costs are genuinely low, insurance tends to be affordable, and parts are widely available. For a daily driver that just needs to be dependable, the ASX quietly ticks every single box. Now, here are the things you absolutely must watch for when you're looking at one. First, pay close attention to the CVT gearbox, if the example you're looking at is fitted with one. CVTs in general require clean transmission fluid and regular servicing to stay healthy. And if a previous owner ignored that, you'll feel it as a shuddering or hesitation during acceleration. Always check service history specifically for transmission maintenance. Second, earlier model years can show some rust around the wheel arches and the undercarriage, particularly on cars that lived in harsher climates. Get underneath and take a proper look, or better yet, get a mechanic to do it. Third, the infotainment and tech on older models is very dated by today's standards, so factor in whether you'd want to upgrade that before you buy. It's not a deal breaker, but it's worth knowing going in. Here's the honest truth, though. The Mitsubishi ASX is the definition of a hidden gem. It's the car that people overlook because it doesn't scream for attention, and that's precisely why the savvy buyers are snapping them up quietly while everyone else is distracted by the shiny stuff. Low purchase price, low running costs, genuinely durable mechanics, and a compact size that makes it incredibly practical for everyday life. This is not a car that's cheap because it's bad. It's cheap because not enough people are paying attention. Stay with us, because the next one on this list, it's another one that the crowd completely sleeps on. And honestly, it might be the most surprising entry yet. 3. The Toyota RAV4. Okay. I know what you're thinking. The RAV4, that's not exactly a hidden gem, is it? And you're right. The RAV4 is one of the best-selling SUVs on the planet. Everybody knows the RAV4. Your neighbor has one. Your dentist's receptionist probably has one too. But here's the twist, and this is the part that most people completely miss. Because the RAV4 is so popular new, people forget that older generations of this car are sitting on used car lots right now at genuinely shocking prices. And that is exactly where the gold mine is buried. So stick with me because this one is more interesting than you think. The RAV4 has been around since 1994. Toyota literally invented the modern compact SUV segment with this car. Think about that for a second. While other manufacturers were still figuring out what a crossover even was, Toyota was already on their second generation of the RAV4, refining it, improving it, making it better. Decades of engineering, decades of real-world feedback from millions of owners worldwide, all poured into every generation of this vehicle. That kind of accumulated knowledge doesn't just disappear because the car is a few years old. It shows up in the reliability, in the longevity, in the sheer everyday dependability that RAV4 owners talk about with an almost cult-like devotion. And the engines, particularly the 2.5L four-cylinder that became the backbone of the third and fourth generation models, are among the most proven, most dependable engines Toyota has ever produced, which is saying a lot given that Toyota's reputation for engine reliability is basically legendary at this point. These engines are not exciting. They don't make you feel like a racing driver. They don't make dramatic noises or produce spine-tingling acceleration. What they do is start every single morning without complaint, sip fuel at a remarkably reasonable rate, and keep running long after most of their competitors would have retired with dignity. There are RAV4S out there with 250,000 miles on the clock that are still in daily use. That is not an accident. That is engineering philosophy made real. The hybrid versions, particularly from the fourth and fifth generation, add another dimension entirely. Toyota's hybrid technology is so mature and so well developed at this point that the hybrid RAV4 doesn't feel like a compromise. It feels like the version of the car that was always meant to exist. Fuel economy improves dramatically. The electric motor actually makes the car feel more responsive around town, and the hybrid system itself has proven to be extraordinarily durable in real-world use. The battery degradation that used to scare people away from hybrids, not really a serious concern here. Toyota engineered those battery packs to last, and the data backs that up completely. Practicality is another area where the RAV4 just refuses to lose. The interior is intelligently designed. Cargo space is genuinely generous for the class. Ground clearance is respectable, and the AWD system on equipped models has more than enough capability to handle anything life realistically throws at it. Whether that's a snowy commute, a gravel road to a weekend cabin, or just the chaos of daily life with too much stuff to carry. The RAV4 absorbs it all, without drama. But here is where you need to slow down and pay attention, because even the RAV4 has its watch-out moments. The third generation, 2006-2012, can develop an oil consumption issue on the 2.5L engine, particularly if servicing was inconsistent. Before you buy, pull the dipstick, check the oil level, and ask specifically about consumption between changes. It's manageable if you know about it, but it can catch you completely off guard if you don't. Also, on higher mileage examples, check the timing chain system carefully. Listen for any rattling on cold starts because a worn timing chain on this engine is not a cheap fix. Additionally, older RAV4S can develop rust on the spare tire carrier mounted on the back door. It's a cosmetic issue mostly, but we're factoring in. And always check the condition of the rear differential on AWD models if the car has high mileage, as neglected differential fluid can cause noise and wear that adds up quickly. None of this changes the fundamental truth about the RAV4 though. This is a car that was built right, maintained easily, and aged incredibly well. The used market prices on older generations represent some of the best value you can find in the entire SUV segment right now. And that is not an opinion. That is just the numbers talking. Buy smart, check the right things, and a used RAV4 will reward you for years without asking for much in return. And we are not done yet, because the next SUV on this list, let's just say it's one that the internet constantly argues about, and we're about to settle it once and for all. 4. The Honda CR-V. So remember when I said the internet constantly argues about something? Yeah, this is it, because there is a very passionate, very vocal group of people out there who will tell you that the Honda CR-V is the greatest compact SUV ever made. And there is an equally passionate group who will tell you it's overrated. And you know what? Both groups are partially right. But here's the thing that neither group is talking about. The used CR-V market right now is sitting at prices that make the argument completely irrelevant. Because at these numbers, even a merely good CR-V is an extraordinary deal. And spoiler alert, it's way better than merely good. The CR-V has been around since 1995, and Honda has spent every single year since then obsessively refining it. This is a car that Honda takes personally. It's been one of their flagship models for 3 decades, and that kind of corporate pride translates directly into build quality, engineering integrity, and long-term durability that you can actually feel when you drive one. There's a solidity to a well-maintained CR-V that just inspires confidence, like the car is quietly telling you, "I've got this, relax." And at this point in automotive history, that kind of reassurance is genuinely worth paying for. Except on the used market, you're barely paying anything, which is almost unfair. The engines across the CR-V's generations tell a really interesting story. The earlier generations, particularly the second and third gen, covering roughly 2002 through to 2011, ran predominantly naturally aspirated four-cylinder engines that were gloriously simple and almost offensively reliable. No turbo, no unnecessary complexity, just clean mechanical honesty doing its job day after day. These engines respond beautifully to regular maintenance. And there are third-generation CR-Vs out there with genuinely staggering mileage that still drive tightly and cleanly. Honda built those engines to go the distance. And go the distance they absolutely did. Then came the turbocharged 1.5L engine introduced in the fifth generation from around 2017 onwards. And this is where the CR-V story gets more nuanced and more interesting. The turbo engine brought significantly better performance, improved fuel economy, and real-world driving, and a much more engaging driving experience overall. But it also brought a well-documented issue that you absolutely need to know about before shopping for one of these. In certain conditions, particularly short trips in cold climates, this engine can experience oil dilution where a small amount of fuel gets into the engine oil. Honda addressed this with software updates and eventually engineering changes. But if you're shopping for an early 5th-gen CR-V with the 1.5 turbo, you need to check the service history carefully, confirm the software update was applied, and check that oil hasn't been neglected. It sounds alarming, but managed correctly, it's not a disaster. It just requires informed buying, which is exactly why you're watching this video right now. What makes the CR-V genuinely special beyond the engines, though, is how brilliantly Honda packaged the whole thing. The interior space efficiency is remarkable. Honda engineers are absolute wizards at making the inside of a car feel significantly larger than the outside suggests it should be. Rear passenger room in particular is genuinely generous enough to surprise people who expect a compact SUV to feel compact inside. The boot space is excellent. The driving position is natural and comfortable. And the overall ergonomics feel thoughtfully designed rather than just thrown together. This is a car that was built around how people actually use it. And that attention to real-world usability is something you feel every single day you own it. Reliability data across multiple independent studies consistently places the CR-V among the top performers in its class, and owner satisfaction scores remain high even on higher mileage examples, which tells you something important about how these cars age. A well-maintained CR-V doesn't suddenly fall apart at 150,000 miles. It just keeps going quietly and competently, asking only for basic servicing in return. Now, the watch-out list because you came here for the full picture. Beyond the oil dilution issue on early 5th-gen turbos, already mentioned, there are a few more things to check. Air conditioning compressor failures have been reported on some third-generation models. So, test the AC thoroughly on any example you're considering. Check all four-wheel arches and the underside for rust, particularly on older models that lived in areas with road salt. The CR-V can be susceptible there. And on any CR-V with an automatic transmission, do your due diligence on the transmission fluid history, because a neglected auto on a high-mileage car is always a risk regardless of the badge. Also, check that the rear tailgate opens and closes smoothly on older models, as the mechanism can wear over time. But strip all of that back, and what you're left with is this. The Honda CR-V is one of the most complete, most practical, most dependably engineered compact SUVs ever built. The used market is full of excellent examples at prices that make no logical sense given how good these cars actually are. And that gap between perception and reality, that is your opportunity. We've got one more SUV left on this list, and I promise you, we save something genuinely special for last. You do not want to click away now. 5. The Mitsubishi Montero. Oh yes, we save the best for last. And before anyone in the comments says anything, yes, I am fully aware that this one is going to surprise some of you, maybe even shock a few of you, because the Mitsubishi Montero, known in some markets as the Pajero, is one of those vehicles that exists in a completely different league from everything else on this list. And yet somehow, inexplicably, it gets treated like a forgotten relic at used car lots everywhere. People walk right past it, dealers practically give them away. And the people who actually know what this thing is capable of, they are absolutely laughing all the way to the trailhead. let's set the scene properly because the Montero deserves a proper introduction. This is not a soft road, school run pretend adventure crossover. This is a body on frame, genuine four-wheel drive, go absolutely anywhere SUV that was competing in and winning the Dakar Rally. The Dakar Rally, one of the most brutally demanding motorsport events on the face of the earth, covering thousands of kilometers across deserts, mountains, and terrain that would make most modern SUVs weep quietly into their touchscreens. Mitsubishi won the car 12 times with vehicles derived directly from the Montero platform. 12. So when someone tells you this is just a cheap old truck, you can smile politely and know something they clearly don't. The third-generation Montero, produced from 1999 through to the mid-2000s, is where the sweet spot lives for used buyers right now. The 3.5 LV6 petrol engine in these cars is an absolute workhorse. It's not the most fuel-efficient engine ever conceived. Let's be honest, it was built in an era when nobody was particularly worried about that. But what it is tough, mechanically robust in a way that modern engines, with all their complexity and electronic management systems, sometimes struggle to match. These engines respond to proper maintenance with extraordinary longevity. And finding one with 200,000 miles that still pulls strong is genuinely not unusual if the car was looked after. The Super Select 4WD system on the Montero is also worth highlighting specifically because it is legitimately one of the most capable and cleverly designed four-wheel drive systems ever put into a production SUV. It allows full-time four-wheel drive on tarmac without damaging the drivetrain, something that many traditional 4WD systems simply cannot do. And it gives the driver genuine control over how power is distributed across all four wheels in a way that feels intuitive and confidence-inspiring even in genuinely challenging conditions. The third-gen Montero also brought independent suspension on all four corners, which sounds like a technical detail, but actually matters enormously in the real world. It means this thing rides significantly better than most body-on-frame SUVs of its era. Handles with more composure on tarmac and yet still maintains the off-road articulation and capability that made the nameplate famous. It managed to be both a comfortable long-distance road car and a serious off-road tool simultaneously, a combination that even today very few vehicles manage convincingly. And here is the part that genuinely boggles the mind. You can find solid, well-maintained examples of this car for prices that make absolutely no sense given what they're capable of. While people are spending significantly more money on modern crossovers that would struggle on a slightly muddy field, the Montero sits there quietly, massively capable, massively undervalued, just waiting for someone smart enough to recognize what they're looking at. Now, and this is critical, because the Montero is older and because it is a serious off-road vehicle, your pre-purchase inspection needs to be thorough and uncompromising. The first thing to investigate seriously is the timing belt. The 3.5 LV6 is an interference engine, which means if that timing belt fails without warning, the damage is catastrophic and expensive. Always confirm the timing belt replacement history and factor in the cost of a fresh one immediately if records are unclear. Second, inspect the entire undercarriage with genuine attention. Look for damage from off-road use. Check for rust, particularly around the chassis rails and floor pan. And examine the differential and transfer case for any signs of leaks or neglect. Third, the Super Select four-wheel drive system is brilliant when healthy, but if it hasn't been properly maintained, fluid changes, regular use of all four-wheel drive modes, it can develop issues that are not cheap to remedy. Engage every mode during the test drive and make sure transitions are smooth and clean. Also, check the condition of the rear air suspension if fitted on certain trims, as this can be a costly repair on high-mileage examples. And finally, because these vehicles attract a certain type of buyer, check carefully for signs of serious off-road abuse rather than casual adventure use. There's a difference between a car that's been enjoyed and a car that's been punished. But here's the honest bottom-line truth about the Mitsubishi Montero. This is a vehicle with genuine motorsport heritage, real-world off-road capability that most modern SUVs can only dream about, a robust and proven drivetrain, and a used market price that is almost embarrassingly low for what you're actually getting. It is the definition of a hidden gold mine, and the fact that most people ignore it completely is not a reason to doubt it. It is literally the entire reason the deal exists in the first place. So, there you have it. 5 SUVs that the crowd completely sleeps on, and 5 reasons why the smartest used car buyers out there have been quietly winning for years. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, do us a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this channel and discover exactly this kind of content. And if you want to keep making smart decisions about the cars you buy, subscribe right now, because we go deep on hidden gems, underrated machines, and the kind of honest automotive knowledge that dealers would honestly rather you didn't have. Drop in the comments which one of these 5 you'd actually go for. I have a feeling the Montero is going to cause some serious debate down there. We'll see you in the next one.